I grabbed my laptop and took it into the bathroom for some multitasking.
This is the price of time. Oh, shit, I don't even own a television.
1, 2, 3. There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. 'Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
Greetings. Welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television, the bad book podcast that dares to ask, what if Silicon Valley was actually filled with villains and bad for the world at large?
Record scratch?
I'm JW Series C fundraiser Friedman.
And straight out of the bathroom on my laptop, I'm Chris Collision, and I am your Immortal.
You are. And together, we are here to talk about The Price of Time by, I'm going to make an educated guess here, Tim Tigner.
We're just going to say Tigner, although I make no bones about it. I may say Tigner. I may say Tigner. I may say a lot of things.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll have a cool nickname for him by the end, like Timmy T.
Few of the things I say will be positive, however.
That's very, very true. So you wanted me to discuss how this book came across my radar.
I did, because I think it's interesting to know how we do what we do, that voodoo that we do so well. How do we pick books?
Well, a lot of it apparently involves the Outback Steakhouse because, as people at home know, I am prone to hang out there at the bar and eat and read a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I had finished the book that I was reading. Outback is kind enough to offer free Wi-Fi.
Ooh.
And I was flipping through some Kindle Unlimited selections when this book popped to the top as recommended to you, which should have set off all the warning lights.
Yeah, our recommendations are best described as run fast.
But I wasn't thinking about that because I had a couple of those very large beers that you can get there. And I was like, ooh, cool, recommended for me. This sounds like an interesting concept. And so I started reading this thinking I was actually going to enjoy it. And after about 30 pages, I think is when I texted Collision and was like, I just accidentally found a book for the show. Because, this is real bad. So this is the rare sincere read that turns into a show read for at least one of us. I'd never heard of it. I don't want to call you out, Jay, but I'm a little disappointed that it took you 30 pages because I'd like to read you the first sentence, if I might. Look, big beers, okay? When you order a beer there, they're like, do you want a normal one? That's a pint. Or a large one. And it's the large one is like, we should say, Oktoberfest size. And I think I was on 2 larges at that point, so.
All right, but here's the first sentence. Your objections have been duly noted.
Yeah.
And yet, the first sentence of this book remains, Pierce Dubois bunched his beefy fists, attempting to mask his irritation. And
okay, all right. I admit it. I should have known better. I think maybe I just had beef on the brain.
You know who else was bunching his beefy fists to mask his irritation? Me, when I read that frickin' sentence.
Oh, it's a great sentence, though. I think I had just finished eating like a steak or something, and I was like, it just flew over my head. I thought I was reading the menu.
Longtime listeners, I can't remember if I've ever talked about this on the show before, but I have a personal rule that I am only allowed to use 2 of the following 3 things at any given time. Alcohol, the internet, and my credit card. Because when I break that rule, bad shit happens and usually money gets spent.
But this was Kindle Unlimited.
Okay, so that's a tiny out, but you are still paying for that, but even if you had that rule in your life, that rule would not apply at Outback.
That's true, because there are no rules.
There are no rules there. So you went to a lawless land, and you came back with this.
I come from a land down under, my friend, and I come back bearing The Price of Time by Tim Tigner.
Gotta be honest, I probably would have rather had that Vegemite sandwich.
Question, do you think the man from Brussels, 6 foot tall and full of muscles, is that a pun? Because mussels are a very popular dish in Brussels.
Are they?
Yeah, they are. It's considered like a really popular snack, which I learned recently when I went to a Belgian restaurant, I believe. Is that where Brussels is?
I'm going to go with you on this because you know more stuff than I do.
I'm pretty sure that's where Poirot is from.
But full of mussels is a better description of snacking than of being burly.
Yeah. I just always imagined he was like a big, beefy guy, but it kind of works both ways.
What country is Jean-Claude Van Damme from? Because he is notoriously nicknamed the Muscles from Brussels.
He's Belgian.
There you go.
Cool.
We have used contextual knowledge to determine where a very famous world-class city is.
We've cracked the case of 6th grade geography, and we might still be wrong.
And if you were impressed by that... God help you. But if you were impressed by that, you might be impressed by the level of plotting and mystery solving in this here book.
Well, we could talk about the whole book. Or we could just talk about the fact that the table of contents lists the epigraph as its own chapter. And that chapter is entitled, Consider This.
Ought we consider this?
Probably not. It's just a really trite quote about the Fountain of Youth.
Oh, actually, it's kind of annoying to me. I think you should read it if you have it up, or I can read it because I have it up.
I don't.
Okay, so please consider this. You and I will never know if the Fountain of Youth exists. There is one simple reason for this. Revealing such a grand discovery would be foolish, and no fool is going to find it. So that's annoying to me on two levels. One, I don't like it when a book calls me a dummy. Which is, I assume, the premise of why I'm not going to find it, because I'm a dummy.
Yeah.
But revealing something would be foolish, and no fool is going to find it. Those don't follow from each other. One does not follow from the other. One does not cause the other to be a thing. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and this is also one of those epigraphs that's not cited, so I think it probably came from the author's head.
And it has a certain Tigner-ish quality, if you will, of a... if A, then B, but B, then A. Which he is he's more prone to it than Pete Buttigieg.
He's got a Reddit personality, and it shines through in this book for sure. Now you've called him Tigner, and I'm worried I've been mispronouncing it. So from now on, he's just Timmy T when I'm talking about him.
Big Timmy T.
Yeah. So you want to do plot in 60 seconds?
Sure. This is going to be a return to the old bad times of plot in 60 for reasons that have mostly to do with my inability to plan things.
This book is a mess. Okay.
Also, every time I sat down to work on this, I spent an hour trying to work on this morning, and every time I did, I came very close to just texting you, Jay, what the fuck is this book about?
I mean, my plot in 60 seconds, if I was doing it, would be, what if they made a Mission Impossible about Theranos?
Okay.
But that's kind of cheating, because that doesn't really describe the book. So let's do it for real, but here's a good angry song to get you amped up.
You got 60 seconds, scream in the shout. You got 60 seconds, don't leave nothing out. You got 60 seconds, just open your mouth and tell them what the goddamn book's about. Okay, Collision. Are you ready to do this?
Yes, but I'm angry at my dad.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, the year is 1999, and Pierce, who is 51% angel investor but 49% devil investor, is checking in on a team of scientists in a company whose name I can't remember, who have been working, I'm going to call it Eeyore, who have been working to end the scourge of death in humanity. And guess fucking what, kids? They've done it. And for reasons that are too boring to get into, they decide they're going to hoard it amongst themselves and only share it with one rich girl named Aria Eiffel, for reasons that I don't care about. Meanwhile, Zachary Chase is a Princeton economics grad who wanted to serve his country, so he joined the CIA. Unfortunately, the country's government that he has destabilized is the United Kingdom's from doing his job too well, so he gets fired. He is 30 and has a midlife crisis, so he decides he's going to look up his old Princeton roommate, Lars de Kock, struggling actor in Los Angeles, California. And he does so, but the guy he runs into isn't Lars de Kock. He just looks like Lars de Kock. how could these stories possibly be connected? Well, I'm going to tell you. The genius plan that the Immortals have concocted between 1999 and 2019, which it is now when Zach is getting fired and Lars is getting doppelgangered, is that the Immortals want to re-enter society. So they're going to kill people who look like them and take over their lives. But to do that, they need to target loners, rebels, people who've been on TV like Lars de Kock. The plot doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Anyway, another person who's been targeted for replacement is Skylar. She's a triathlete, and that is the end of her personality. She and Zachary Chase hook up in more ways than one.
Yeah, I tried to whistle and I failed spectacularly.
Slide whistle noise. And try to bring down the Immortals, except that I forgot to mention that this whole time the Immortals have been dying mysteriously one by one by one. Who could be trying to kill the Immortals? Can Zach and Skylar protect themselves against Tori Lago, the Finnish murder machine who has been hired by the Immortals to find people they can replace? Who knows? But yes, they can.
Yeah, so obviously not 60 seconds, but there's no way you're going to get that in. This is two of the most confusing plots from a bad sci-fi network show crammed together into one book.
Did I leave anything major out?
Not really. I think the only thing you left out is that, the reasoning behind why they needed to re-enter society via killing people, which was, I found this really annoying because basically the philosophical underpinnings of this book, which is definitely something the author would say, revolves around the same fucking reducing the death rate via medicine would lead to unsustainable population growth thought experiment is Dan Brown's Angels and Demons, which we discussed at a live show that was not released for public consumption, unfortunately. But I'm beginning to think that a copy of a pamphlet about that is handed out at the Bad Writers Academy. Either way, the idea is they've decided they can't release this everlasting life drug to the public because it would lead to a population density explosion, but they can't even let people know that it exists because people would revolt. Everybody wants to live forever, so they all have to go into seclusion and hide out on their own where they can't be found.
Now, this is fantastic because this is the kind of science fiction book that for about 10% of its run length thinks it's a book of ideas, right? And the idea that you just sketched out, okay, fine, the premises are wrong, the reasoning is flawed, but you know what? It's a good old-fashioned kind of SF that I'm kind of willing to put up with, except that there already is a set of stories about unusually long-lived, secretive people hiding among us.
Really?
Yeah, they're called vampires.
Oh, yeah, that's true, actually.
And that nobody even raises the hand in the boardroom to say, wait, guys, this exists, and they are widely considered to be kind of not that cool.
They're actually considered to be monsters.
Yeah. I thought was kind of a major gap. The other big thing is that I think you're right that pamphlet gets handed out at bad sci-fi writing conferences, but particularly you get a copy of that if you wander into the writing libertarian science fiction for fun and profit workshop seminar.
There are strong Patterson vibes here, by the way, right down to the way the book is structured. There's 75 chapters in this book, which is less than 300 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Basically, the people who live to be immortals are the six founders of a tech company, and they're one angel investor. And the
Pierce
first
Dubois,
who slaps his meaty hands together or whatever. But the first chapter of this book is hilarious because it introduces all of the main antagonists, but in the most clumsy and silly way possible. The narrator is describing Pierce's thoughts as everyone walks through the door, and then they basically do something that tells you exactly who they are on the team and then announce who they are and what they do on the team. I wrote my own example. David Hume, one of the least reliable of the team, but definitely the science guy, walked into the room in a sciencey way with a lab coat and some science stuff. Wow, he said, major breakthrough today at the science factory.
That is so disturbingly accurate that I wish you hadn't done it, because now I feel like I'm spending all this time making fun of a writer that... Jay, you can tell us. Did you write this book?
I do have many pseudonyms.
Is this content marketing to get this book in front of more people?
No. No. And I'll tell you exactly how you know. I would never write a book with a fucking motorcycle chase in it. Even I wouldn't go that far, like being bad on purpose.
That's a good point. There also was a little bit more name-checking of specific engine capacities in various vehicles than I thought would be quite your style.
That's true. I know shit about cars. I just had to bring my car into the mechanic, and it turns out it was because the battery was dead.
I mean, been there.
Yeah. So,
anywho.
Definitely not me.
But let's spend a little more time just in this first chapter because... So Pierce Dubois is a real name. David Hume is a real name. And boy, do they hang a lampshade on that. Just in case you didn't get the joke, one character explains to the other character that it's odd that our science innovator has the same name as a famous skeptic philosopher.
Yeah.
Other names of relevant people. So there are only 6 or 7 people on the team initially. Lisa Pereira, her character is that she's a CEO and she's really pretty, but not in the face, they say repeatedly.
Yeah, which, like, come on, dude.
Yeah, fuck a bunch of that. Felix Gentry, the CFO.
It's not explicitly mentioned that he's English, but with a name like that.
Okay, but the money guy is named Gentry.
God. This didn't even click until just now.
I think I've mentioned that Aria Eiffel is the rich girl that they approach to share the secret with because she is a rich, either daughter or widow, I can't remember, of an oil tycoon from France named Eiffel.
Yeah, pioneer of aerodynamics. They thought he was a real smart aleck. Yeah.
Nice, extremely end-stage Pixies deep cut pull.
Oh,
there.
Alexander, I see you beneath the archways of aerodynamics. Oh, that's such a good song. Anyway.
And it bears mentioning that all this prose, as you've pointed out, has an extremely strong Meat Alpha Team kind of vibe from
totally,
The Onion.
Totally.
It's really, I mean, it's both the best thing and the worst thing when a book reminds you of The Onion in the first 5 pages.
The CEO walked in, looked around authoritatively. I'm in charge here, she said, because I'm the CEO.
It's time for some executive action, she said, stripping off her power suit and revealing her taut, supple breasts.
Oh, see, I was thinking there would be like some kind of like cat suit. What was that movie with Sean Connery?
Disclosure? Yeah. the one where Michael Crichton, who, by the way, has been the elephant looming over every page of this book.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. I think the one with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
The one about...
The one that everyone remembers. It's the movie about Catherine Zeta-Jones and some lasers.
Yeah, and I believe the premise of that movie is actually something like, what if sexual harassment but happening to men?
We're thinking about different movies.
Okay.
Yeah, that is Entrapment. The one I'm thinking about is the one where she has to steal something valuable, and she does a lot of things and looks real pretty, avoiding lasers.
Catherine Zeta-Jones in a movie? Looking pretty, you say?
Yeah, surprise.
Let's get down to the old video store.
Big ups also to Catherine Zeta-Jones, one of the few celebrities out there to endorse the cause of... decreasing the stigma around bipolar and talking openly about her dealings with it. I admire that greatly. So,
I had no idea.
Yeah, so that's awesome. But anyway, back to The Price of Time by Tim Tigner.
Back to The Price of Time, a.k.a. what if Michael Crichton was woken up out of a very, very deep sleep and asked to rewrite Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None on the fly?
Oh, God. Yeah, there is a lot of that.
because that is what this book is.
I mean, it's that, but with, a thin gloss of the sci-fi trappings of Crichton, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then there's just this weird ongoing, like, fisticuffs, murder, death, kill plot in front of everything, too.
Well, I mean, if there's a problem that can't be solved by moving forward and throwing punches, Zachary Chase, Princeton economist, sure hasn't heard about it.
Oh, God. And neither has triathlete something. I can't remember. Skylar. I don't know. Skylar Grimes, whatever. I don't remember.
So we should note that she's not just a triathlete. That would be reductive. She's a triathlete who made ends meet while doing triathlete stuff by being a firefighter, but both careers were ended when she was saving, I can't remember, a basket of kittens, I assume, and got a nasty case of the smoke inhalation. So she still runs 30 miles a day for funsies, but is no longer a top-level Ironman participant.
So you said not to be reductive. She's not just a triathlete.
She's also a firefighter.
Let's put a pin in that.
All right.
Because we're going to come back to that later.
Okay.
But I wanted to talk just a little bit about, I think this book may be self-published, in which case we have accidentally broken a rule. And
again, you were at the Outback.
Yeah.
So that rule would not have been
that's
in
true,
effect.
yeah. Because I was looking for information about this book and I could not find much. But what I did find that drove me absolutely crazy was a website entitled the San Francisco Review of Books. Now, the San Francisco Review of Books was a legitimate review periodical published from the mid-'70s until 1997.
That explains why I've never heard of it, in part because I'm a fan of things that have place name and then review of books after it.
It was pretty legit. It was a home of legitimate criticism. It closed down, and now there is a website with the same name that appears to be the home solely of paid reviews that are copied directly off of press releases.
Okay, that is stolen literary valor, and I will not stand for that. Someone is getting a strongly worded letter from Chris Collision this week.
Yeah, it upset me a lot. So I found a review of this book on the fake San Francisco Review of Books, and I'm going to read it in its entirety because I think this is important. Starts out like this, with a quote. "The two alpha females were now the planet's only immortal women. Tim Tigner comes to his role as a novelist specializing in political intrigue with a rich background. His academic preparation is a combination of mathematics and philosophy with psychology and radiology, but after academia, his instinct for investigation and thrill-seeking led him to serve in the Green Berets, specializing in Russian and Soviet counterintelligence.
What?
When perestroika glasnost opened Russia, or at least by their definition made it more transparent, led to the fall of the Berlin Wall, Tigner's direction shifted from espionage to arbitrage, and he moved from Russia to Brussels, where he witnessed the formation of the European Union. His change in focus shifted back to the U.S. and further degrees in business and international studies, and he settled in the Silicon Valley as a corporate type in the medical device industry. And as if that background weren't sufficient, he continued his travels around the world expending energy as a scuba diver, skier, actor, mountain climber, hang glider, parachuter, and in every sense of the word, an adventurer. Now he follows his obsession with reading thrillers by writing them."
Did Tim Tigner's bio write this review?
I was going to ask if you had noticed anything about this book review yet.
I noticed that we have talked 92% about the man who wrote it and 8% about the book, and that 8% was a bad quote from one of the stupidest sentences in a stupid book.
Having read most of Tim's novels, it always comes as a surprise that he doesn't repeat himself. There are recipe format suspense books, keep one central character everyone recognizes, then populate the story with expected clones of good versus bad people. That's where Tim steps aside like a matador and creates each novel with a fresh outlook and cast. And in producing this fine story, Tim addresses that nebulous impact of technology on the way we live and think and function.
That's not what nebulous means.
Where will it lead? For those throngs who have been following Tim's books, then be prepared for what is, in this reader's opinion, his strongest standalone novel yet. Your hand is up?
That's either that's not what throngs means, or there aren't those throngs.
Simply step into the opening page of The Price of Time and notice the power of his prose. Pierce Dubois punched his beefy fists, attempting to mask his irritation.
I'm sorry, what kind of prose?
Powerful. The power of his prose.
The power of his prose.
And with that ping, the mystery and suspense begin, not to ease up until the brilliantly composed finale surprise. New lead characters, Skylar Fox and Zachary Chase, and hopefully more episodes will follow. Tim Tigner writes so well that one could easily become addicted. Smart, sophisticated, and always with a surprise at the turn of every page. Tigner simply has it.
Jay, there's a podcast that exists where one of the characters on the podcast frequently says episodes or issues to mean, or movie, when he's trying to talk about a book. And somebody always calls him out for that.
Yeah.
But the writer of that did that, and I think they told on themselves just a little bit, because this book was so patently written to be a mid-tier thriller movie. The kind they don't really make anymore.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
Everything's got to be, a real franchise now, primarily for economic reasons. It just doesn't make sense to spend money on something that you're not going to be able to recycle a couple of times. But this desperately wants to be like the middle-class man's Jason Bourne series.
Yeah, for sure. And being a little bit of a fan of espionage myself,
Yeah.
I decided to take what I thought was the most writerly phrase in that entire interview. Having read most of Tim's novels, it always comes as a surprise that he doesn't repeat himself.
Right.
And I searched for it.
Okay.
It gets 8 hits
Oh,
with
no.
quotes around it. And those hits are on various review sites that almost all appear to be like the San Francisco Review of Books, paid publicity sites, and or user reviews from Amazon in various English-speaking nations around the world. So this is what you get when you pay one of those companies that's like, we'll do press for you. Just give us $200. We don't care if your book is good or not. I've seen my friends do it with music, and the
Right.
same thing happens. It's basically, though, they will copy and paste your press release onto a bunch of blogs that they run that nobody else reads except
Right.
for the authors who have also paid to have their books on that blog.
And Google spiders.
Yeah, so be careful who you give your money to, people.
Right.
And also, I think effectively now, I don't have to worry about violating our no self-publishing rule.
Right.
Because this dude is trying to cheat the system.
Yeah, and look, you don't have to worry about doing your rule because you didn't go looking for this.
That's true.
This was put in front of you. So,
Secondly, though, judging from his alleged past, this may be the book that gets us killed because he does live in the Bay Area and claims to have been in every branch of the military ever.
right.
I'm not sure if I believe it, though, because his bio is one step away from including the phrase, also he's Superman.
Yeah.
So
Rarely have we read an author bio more likely to include either that phrase or the phrase, and then everybody at the GameStop started clapping for me.
I told that mom her kid was causing a ruckus and to get him out of there.
Yeah.
And then everyone in the theater started clapping.
The other reason that you don't have to worry about breaking the rule is because you did more research into that sentence of one review that you found than anybody in this book does at any time. And this is a book about world-spanning heroes and villains with world-changing ambitions.
Good point. Good point. And speaking of world-changing ambitions, I have one right now.
Is this one of those moments where I have to go stand on the porch for a while?
Yeah, sorry. No, I suggest we flip the script and do some high points, low points.
Let's do it.
High points are high,
And the points are low.
high points.
Low points, get ready to go.
High points, low points. This is going to be one of the real challenging ones because high points are few and far between for me, at least. So I guess I'll go first with one. Like I said, I thought the concept of how would you live forever in the public eye and keep your immortality a secret seemed like a pretty good question and kind of an interesting thought experiment. But in retrospect, after reading this, I feel like and after listening to you talk about it, I feel like it's probably been answered already in many far better novels, comic books, cartoons for children,
right,
et cetera, et cetera. So I guess A for effort when it comes to a unique premise. That's about it.
All right. I'm going to try to go a little targeted for my high point. We haven't mentioned him much, but Tori Lago is sort of the fixer that has been chosen by the Immortals to protect them, keep them out of the public eye, and then tasked with replacing them or finding suitable people for them to replace, I should say. And I forget his background, but he is basically Finnish special forces. He is described by reference to his cheekbones so often that the X-ray feature of this literally thinks cheekbones is one of the main characters, which is fucking hilarious to me. However, the drop is gotten on him by our heroes, Zachary and Skylar, standing for the forces of good. So they do what heroes naturally do, tie him up and pour boiling oil on his face until he confesses. It's real hero shit.
Yeah, real hero shit.
And this is what Tori Lago says. He'd never felt such searing white pain. Not from bullets, not from knives, not from reindeer antlers or wolverine claws. And just...
and laying a finger by the side of his nose.
As an hockey fan... Sorry, as a hockey fan... I'm a fan of the Finnish people, and I just love these sources of pain for a Finnish man. You know, your standards. Bullets, knives, reindeer antlers, and wolverine claws.
Yep.
It reminds me, there was a song a million years ago by a two-hit wonder English band called The Godfathers. Their gimmick is they sounded like Loud the Clash and wore suits. And
their gimmick was wearing suits.
Yes,
unique.
Exactly. They had two hits. I forget the second one, but the first one was their attempt to just encompass all of life. And they did it with birth, school, work, death, which I thought was great. But no, it's really cold bullets, knives, reindeer antlers, and wolverine claws.
Yep. Man. Don't even want to think about getting in a fight with a reindeer and a wolverine at the same time.
I mean, what would you rather fight? 100 Wolverine-sized reindeers or one reindeer-sized Wolverine?
Ooh, neither.
See me on Reddit.
Or this book, which is also on Reddit, I'm sure.
I feel like I could fight this book.
This is one of the rare books where your authorial stand-in is both the hero and the villain. I was just thinking about that. You know, he's been in Brussels. He's done military counterintelligence work, but then so is our hero.
Yeah, but there's a good chance that our author wrote this book while wearing a army helmet with both "Born to Kill" written on it and a peace sign drawn on it. Something, something. The duality of man, sir.
Yeah. All right, low points. I wanted to talk about Skylar Fox a little bit. What a name, right?
Stop and think about what you just said.
I want to talk about Skylar Fox. Folks, let's sit down and get serious about Skylar Fox for a minute here. She's one half of our badass protagonist duo / gradual glove affair. And she's a triathlete, as we mentioned. Also a former firefighter. But her triathlete status is mentioned almost every time her name comes up, and it gets so tiring. Here's a greatest hits compilation. Skylar hadn't become a triathlete for the money. Having traveled alone to triathlons all over the world, Skylar knew how to take care of herself. She had already lost the only two meaningful things in her life, her ability to compete professionally as a triathlete, and as a distant second, her service as a firefighter. She'd never thought of herself that way, as a fighter. Sure, she loved the personal challenge of triathlons, ... Modesty wasn't a question. Triathletes lost that during their first competitive race. Of course, it hadn't occurred to him that the former triathlete might join forces with the ex-CIA agent. Have you been to L.A., Chase asked. I've done triathlons in California, Oceanside and Sonoma, but not Los Angeles. As he settled in, Skylar couldn't help but recall the last time she was done the same thing, relaxing on a beachfront balcony with a handsome man. It was in Kona after the World Championship Triathlon.
So there's been maybe 8 things mentioned so far, but 2 of her triathlete powers are being in hotels, and one of them is taking her shirt off. My dude, your fantasy is showing.
I think that's fair. She linked my arm, playing for the audience as if one was watching. I've tied knots once or twice on smaller boats. Triathlons are on the water, so I spend a fair amount of time around boaters. Occasionally, I scored an invitation. That's the end of my triathlon compilation.
Oh, my God. So checking into hotels, taking her shirt off, and being invited onto boats. Actually, those are pretty good James Bond skills. I just wasn't aware that they came straight out of the triathlon scene. So
also having a taut and lithe body, which is described many times as well.
That leads me to my first low point. Our hero, Zachary Chase, starts his investigation with some good old-fashioned investigating, where he checks into hotel rooms and looks into hotel rooms near his, which has moments like the following. I retracted the camera so its eye was flush with the face of the wall. There was a slim chance that she'd noticed the dark spot, but given the texturing and the fact that my hole was just 2/3 the diameter of a pencil eraser, I wasn't worried. Skylar eventually emerged wearing light pink pajamas that hugged her extraordinarily athletic build in a way that required little imagination and left me feeling a bit inadequate. Cool. Love it when my hero is literally a peeping Tom.
It gives explicit directions to the reader on how to accomplish it better.
Yeah, it's just, I hated that scene.
Yeah. Later on, though, he does it to a dude, so it's fair game.
He's also made to feel deeply inadequate by that dude who is so good at Tai Chi that it fucks up fucks up Zachary Chase's head straight through the wall, man.
Yeah. Whoa. All right. My second high point is what I like to call an ironic high point because it's something that made me laugh out loud, but it is by no means good. After Chapter 3 or 4, once our illustrious board of execs has taken the immortality drug, the author interrupts the narrative to directly address the reader with this fucking pearl of wisdom. Author's note: you may find it helpful to note that immortals have an I in their first names, while others do not. Guess who just wrote a shitty book?
I mean, look, you know what's really kind of fun? Finding an Easter egg. Like when you're sort of wandering around and you're like, oh, I think I see a pattern through what looks like just visual noise and clutter. Cool.
Yeah.
You know what's extremely not cool? When a full-grown man races up to you bellowing, here's an Easter egg!
Bruce Willis was dead the whole time!
Be impressed!
Yeah, I thought it was less that and more him just realizing I've written an unintelligible, inscrutable clusterfuck. I better create a convention to separate people A from people B and tell the audience about it as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even really explain the stupid names, nor is it character being destiny or anything. There's just nothing interesting about it. There's no universal principle about what vowels are in what fucking names.
No, it's just it's a writerly I don't even want to call it a trick. It's a fucking crutch. And yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, it's excruciating. Just don't love this book, man.
Yeah, high points are hard.
Also, do we even want to talk about Neil Breen?
I always want to talk about Neil Breen.
So Neil Breen has a convention in the credits of his movies. For those of you who don't know, Neil Breen is someone who is sort of an insane, low-budget auteur.
Along the lines of the fellow who made Birdemic, or perhaps a slightly less problematic Tommy Wiseau.
Except maybe more problematic because most of his movies, I think, seem to end with most of humanity getting killed.
I meant in real life.
Oh, okay. But Neil Breen has this convention where anybody with the initials NB in his credits was just him doing the work.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I think I heard that on a podcast at some point.
Yeah.
And even the catering would be like Nice Bagels Catering or something.
So, when you're inviting comparisons to Neil Breen, you're not doing yourself any fucking favors.
But High Point, you owe us.
Okay, this is the biggest low point in the book to me, and I hope that the reason will become entirely transparent. There wasn't significant tension or even an active rivalry between the corporate coteries, but like tended to attract like and repel unlike. That was unfortunate. After 20 years, David's group of 4 had already been feeling too small. 3 was going to feel utterly insufficient, like a triangle where a circle ought to be. Okay. 4 minus 1 is 3. But circle minus 1 isn't triangle. Triangle plus 1 isn't circle. Triangle plus 1 is rectangle or square.
You're hitting me with this hardcore cipher shit, dude. I'm getting confused.
4 minus 1 equals 3, which is a triangle. 3 plus 1 equals 4, which is that 4-pointed shape we all know to love, if we're Tim Tigner, a circle.
Well, a circle can have any number of points.
A circle can't have any number of points. A circle has an infinite number of points.
Okay, you're right.
I cannot tell you how hard this broke my brain.
That is really annoying.
I mean, like, the only time a triangle where a circle ought to be should upset you, by the way, is if you're in Europe and you're having trouble remembering which bathroom symbol is for which bathroom.
Yeah, or like if you're trying to solve a stupid code in a video game.
Oh, right. Yeah, if you're on your PlayStation and you're like, you keep repeatedly hitting triangle when you should hit circle.
Those QuickTime events, it'll fuck you up every time. You're just trying to take down that Colossus, man. Keep hitting the wrong button.
Anyway, I hated that. But now, I think it's time to get a little high.
You know, actually, we
Oh, who cares? We're like 45 minutes in.
I skipped a low point, though.
Okay, do another low point. If you've got more low points, I'd love to hear them because
Did you
I think
do
we've
2 low points?
I think we've only had 3 low points, and we need a full circle's worth of low points, Jay.
Okay, so here's low point number 4, thus completing the circle.
The circle.
The circle will not remain unbroken. I do not know if this would annoy other people as much as it annoyed me, considering where we live and the business that I'm in. But the fawning descriptions of startup culture and the relentless praise and admiration of people who work around their clock and all that shit made me want to fucking vomit. Like, a lot of those people do turn out to be villains, but plenty of them don't. And the live your job mentality pervades like every description of business at EOS, which is the name of the company that invents the drug,
right,
to the point where it's like, you know, this guy was great at his job. He barely slept and all he did was work and all this kind of shit. And it's like, cool, you're describing everything that's destroying Northern California. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that shit I did not like. Major low point. Okay.
I can dig that. I want to do one last low point.
Okay.
So, I guess we're
Bring on the lows.
I just want to read you the following thing. They're on a yacht and they have a corpse and they need to dispose of it, so they're going to wrap it in a tarp and throw it overboard. But they want to tie the tarp to the corpse. Nothing. No rope. No cable ties. It's a new yacht, so there's not much lying around. Okay, you know what always has some rope on it? A boat with sails.
That's a really good point.
There's cordage there, my friend. I fucking promise you there's cordage there. And you can find it, but you might have to pull your head out of your ass. God, this book is upsetting.
I'm not sure Timmy T has ever seen a boat.
I'm from a landlocked state, and I know that. Okay, now we got to get a high point milked out of this.
I've already jumped back to high points too early, though, and I already did mine, which was the I in the names. So I guess I have to come up with one more thing.
that you actually liked.
Okay, Lars de Cock, funny name. There we go. That's my high point.
That is actually a fairly funny name. There's a death description here that I thought was quite well done. So maybe I'll just read that real quick. Camilla was lying on her back as though the patio were a bed. A bloody halo indicated that her head had hit hard enough to crack. The imperfect circle surrounding her skull was matted with hair.
And made of 4 points.
And crisscrossed by crow tracks. Worst of all, the birds had gorged on her eyes and what lay below. Reese knew that their selection was a simple preference for soft, fatty tissue, but as he stood there, staring in the dawning light, it sure seemed like a message from God.
That's pretty awful.
That's pretty fucked up, man. And I was like, right on. You finally cranked out a paragraph I enjoyed reading.
Pretty much anytime somebody is dead or dying, the writing becomes like, it jumps up a couple notches. I know what Timmy's interested in.
Is it Harley Davidson motorcycles?
And punching dudes.
The idea that a 30-year-old would get real excited about a Harley is slightly problematic for me, but that's a side note.
Yeah.
That's an old man motorcycle, my friends.
It's very true. I got on my Softail Classic with the ape hangers and headed off down the interstate. Let's take a break before it's revealed that I know nothing about motorcycles.
After closing my dentist's office that I run.
Hey, welcome back. We're going to live forever, and you're not.
Oh, you had to do it to him.
I did. Well, I do have an I in my name, so...
Yeah, but so do I.
That's what I'm saying. Sorry for all you non-I people out there. You're going to die. The rest of us, we're cool.
Anybody who was unlucky enough to be named Caitlin, but have a Y dropped in there instead of an I. Sorry.
Anyone under the age of 16 named Caitlin or Jaden or whatever, you're screwed. Let's play some games. Let's start out with the most I-having game in the history of podcasting. This is Dramatic Readings.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
And I mean, it's got like 36 eyes. Collision, can you start us off?
I can, and it will not shock you to understand and to comprehend and to have to deal with the fact that I'm going to take us to the most horned up segment in podcasting history.
Are we going to the bone zone?
Fuck yes.
Strap in, folks. It's $30 for the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge.
Speaking of edging, I don't know if this book is going to get you there, but
It was like strap in and edging and all of these unintentional entendre. Enjoy.
Skylar struggled to reorient herself. Food had been the furthest thing from her mind. You need my credit card? I feel I'll give Tori's Amex a try. Not much risk with takeout. There are 100 hotels around here. His expression changed as his eyes fixed on hers. Now they were the sweetest shade of blue, and so incredibly kind. Hey, are you all right? She felt a sob welling up from deep within, one of those uncontrollable releases of emotional energy that usually attack at the climax of good dramatic movies. She found herself standing as she struggled to suppress it. Without thinking, she wrapped her arms around Chase's neck and pulled his lips to hers. He remained a bit rigid at first. No doubt he had his own conflicting emotions, but her body just powered through the way it always did when meeting resistance.
Like at a triathlon.
Her hands ran over his back and through his hair, while her mouth worked of its own accord, desperately trying to satisfy an appetite deep within, regardless of cost or consequence. His gears kicked in before she needed to come up for breath. Soon, his hands leapt into action.
Whoa!
Outside her clothes at first, then within.
Second base, then third base.
Caressing, petting, pulling, and squeezing. Ladies,
I think that last part there is like the chorus to a Two Live Crew song.
or like a Bullet Boys song.
That's true too. Yeah, I could totally hear that screamed in a glam rock voice.
Smooth up in ya.
Which to this day I swore was Smooth Opinion for the longest time.
You fucking wish.
Yeah, I was like, because nobody would actually name a song Smooth Up in Ya, would they?
Yeah, what's the really bad Journey song? Like, hugging, kissing,
Woo!
caressing, patting, and squeezing.
I don't like it, but I just thought about Smooth Up Enya, which would be a much better song.
That was actually my DJ name for a few years. Sorry, I'm gonna have to backtrack a little bit because we're not done here,
Oh, Jesus.
and I don't want people to have had their, experience. I don't want them to have been jolted out of it. Soon, his hands leapt into action. Outside her clothes at first, then within, caressing, petting, pulling, and squeezing. Her shirt flew off, followed by her bra. Pants dropped as they toppled onto the bed, their mouths still melded. The fervid kisses continued as their feet began kicking in clumsy attempts to jettison the garments that still clung to their hungry flesh.
I thought they already flew off.
Once all their skin was sufficiently exposed, their legs intertwined, and a rhythmic motion developed. But he didn't go in. When she reached the point where she couldn't take it anymore, he pulled away and looked her in the eye. His eyes were bright with desire, but tinged with concern. She whispered the answer to his unasked question, yes. I kind of resent what I just read because it conclusively provides a counterexample to the idea that consent is sexy. Because, okay, good job, you got consent, even enthusiastic consent, before an important step, but man, that scene was not sexy.
It wasn't, although I do appreciate his attempts to capture the inherent clumsiness of trying to remove like one's shoes, socks, and pants.
Yeah, but except her shirt flew off, followed by her bra, has a Scott Baio in Zapped kind of vibe that I don't think
what I was
intended.
thinking too, like totally slide whistle. Oh man, where is it? Ah.
Well, the new one hasn't come yet. There have been some
God
shipping
damn it.
delays
Yeah,
from
yeah.
AmericanSlideWhistle.net.
But yeah, that's totally like a pew. Shirt just pops up like it's on wires, and there's a stagehand yanking really hard. In more ways than one.
Right. Not just the stagehand either. Anyway, you thought I was done, but I'm not done. He slipped inside and engaged the electricity, a buzzing in her intimate areas that radiated outward in pulses of bright pink light. And now I am done, because I did not need to hear that he engaged the electricity in her intimate area. This whole thing is less convincing a sex scene than the notorious bag of sand comment in 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah, pro tip to hetero cis men, if you're writing a sex scene, maybe write about the feelings that the man is having instead of making up some crazy Pikachu shit that women feel. Just a thought. I don't know.
Although, Tim, if you can teach me how to engage the electricity, maybe this is some tantra shit that I just don't know how to make my stuff do.
Well, you've never properly shifted into gear, is my guess, because that happens earlier as well.
Oh my God. Am I grinding it till I find it sexually? Actually, that's a strong yes. Do not have me. Honey, I'm so sorry.
All right, let's take it down a little bit. I got to do a dramatic reading that's far less sexy.
Wow.
Although it does heavily involve a cock. This is a selection I like to call Lars de Cock Has a Funny Name.
Is that the chapter name, or did you make that up?
No, the chapter name is The Line.
Okay.
I don't know if you noticed these chapter headers too, but it's an hourglass gradually emptying. It's just chef's kiss.
Oh, I did not pick up on that.
Yeah, it starts out full, but that hourglass, it's emptying chapter by chapter.
I have a secondary supplementary high point.
Is it that?
Yes.
Lars spotted the driver outside baggage claim, exactly where Tom had indicated. He was holding a blank name placard with a gray border, just as Tom had said he would. Lars identified himself with a nod, as instructed. The handsome black man held out a big hand, palm up. Your cell phone, please. You want my phone? If you want to go any further, you'll need to hand it over. Tom had warned Lars not to breathe a word to anyone about his potential employment or tell anyone where he was going. If he found himself backed into a corner, he was to say he had a promising but confidential audition on the East Coast, a story that had the virtue of being entirely true. But no such situation had arisen. Sadly, Lars was an introvert. It was the attribute he blamed for his lack of career progress, but was helpless to correct. You get a letter and a tablet in return, the driver said, producing the items from behind the blank placard. Lars traded devices and watched, while the driver sealed his phone into what looked like a thick mylar bag. As they walked towards the airport garage, Lars read the letter. It was short and printed on plain paper. Welcome to Virginia. Say nothing to the driver. He is not a company man. Once you're alone in the back seat of the car, unlock the iPad with your right thumb and proceed as instructed. Unlock it with my thumb. Clearly, and in retrospect, not surprisingly, the CIA operated on a different plane. The driver raised a partition as the car started moving, making the first instruction easy to comply with. Lars followed the second instruction a few seconds later as their town car merged onto I-64 East towards Camp Peary, which he now knew housed the CIA Field Operations Training Facility known as The Farm. The iPad unlocked to reveal a white screen with Lars de Cock, the date, and Part 1 psychological profile printed bold on the center screen. The text vanished. The instant Lars finished reading it, a set of instructions appeared. Answer quickly and honestly, with 1 being nothing like me and 5 being just like me.
Wait. So the CIA needs to know if he's an INFP?
Yes, he's about to take a Myers-Briggs.
Oh.
Again, the text vanished the instant Lars finished reading, and he realized with astonished admiration that the iPad must be tracking his eye movements. Q1. I want to work where contagious diseases run rampant. Lars pressed 1 while wondering if the device captured his eye roll. Q2. I work well in isolation. Lars pressed 5. Q3. I get nervous around guards. Lars pressed 1. Q4. I love my country. Lars pressed 5. Q5. I have a lot of friends. Lars considered pressing 1. Then pressed 2. And so it went for 5 minutes, with a display in the upper left corner clicking off the quantity of responses, a clock in the upper right displaying elapsed time, and a number in the center showing what Lars quickly calculated to be the average number of responses per minute. Confirming his initial suspicion regarding eye movements, Lars noted that the screen went blank whenever he glanced out the window, something he did on only 2 occasions, given his battle with the clock. At the 5-minute mark, the active question faded and Part 2, personality profile, appeared. Yes, Lars is filling out a dating site.
Yes! Good luck, buddy!
Speak your answers clearly and concisely popped up next. What followed was an extensive background questionnaire focusing on family and friends. Q1, list the name and locations of all relatives with whom you are in contact. Q2, who are your 5 best friends? Q3, what restaurants do you frequent? Q4, how long have you lived at your current address? Q5, who is your landlord? Q6, who would come to your funeral? Whoa, folks. Whoa.
I mean, would anybody?
Probably not. Lars is a loner.
He's a rebel.
Okay, folks, the readings, they have been dramatic. But it's time for another game. It's time for What Is Your Fave?
What is your fave? What is your fave? When you're presented with a list of options, what is your fave?
So, to peel back the curtain, pardon me, I keep belching. To peel back the curtain, I haven't been this excited about a What Is Your Fave that I've written in, like, forever. It's bifurcated, so this is a two-parter. And it revolves around the fact that this book, which is full of short named chapters, a la James Patterson, the chapters have names. These names, with some notable exceptions, I feel like easily fit into one of two categories. So let's talk about them. But not all of them, because there are 75.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But to start with, I'd like to know your favorite chapter title that could also be a professional wrestler's finishing move.
Oh, okay.
About Face, The Red Line, Trouble in Paradise, wait, that is, The Hook, The Line, The Sinker, Twist of Fate, wait, that is
one.
two, Reckless Abandon, Stakeout, Emergency Stop, Breathless, Bad Connection, Capillary Action, Face the Truth, Rat Trap, Forward Momentum, The Price, Red Light, Green Light, and Ultimate Relief.
That last one is a finishing move of a different kind.
I know.
I'm going to go with Rat Trap, just because I think that's like, I don't know, it just speaks to a character, right? Just somebody who hates rats, and all of his opponents or her opponents would be rats.
Like a two-job superstar, maybe? The Verminator or something like that?
No, not
Someone
that.
who by day is a exterminator, but by night is a pro wrestler?
No, a metaphorical rat.
Oh.
Right?
I see.
Take this, you damn dirty rat, and then bam, you're exterminated. There was another one that was like go to sleep or something.
No, that's CM Punk.
Right, but what was that?
There's Face the Truth?
No.
Breathless?
Maybe it was Breathless. I thought Breathless might be like a decent name for like a sleeper hold or a choke hold of some kind.
Definitely, yeah. I like Forward Momentum.
And maybe they're
lot.
like a big movie buff.
Yeah.
Like,
so they're really into Dick Tracy and Madonna's character?
no, it's like Dave Goddard.
You went highbrow. I went with Madonna and Dick Tracy.
Right. Well, I mean, usually it's I who make the dick jokes. Thank you. Thank you.
For me, it's totally Trouble in Paradise because Kofi.
The difference between you and me in this conversation is actual wrestlers in wrestling, where I'm relying largely on memories that I kind of stopped accumulating in about 1998.
Okay, so we move on to the second segment here. These are chapter titles that could also be a pop punk album title.
Yes.
Bad Day Dawning.
Oh, boy.
Tastes and Tactics. A Pattern Emerges. Cravings and Confessions. Cold Calculation. A Good Question. Gaining Insight. Just a Number. The Start of Something. Timing is Everything. Fresh Perspective. Strange Arrangement. And once again, Ultimate Relief.
Right. So actually, I want to push back. I want to say that this is in fact trifurcated, because that list to me is about 50-50 pop punk / emo adjacent album and math rock album.
Ooh, yeah. Like Cold Calculation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a classic. Or there was something in there about like strange timing.
Timing is everything.
Timing is everything. Like, if that hasn't been a name for some god-awful start-stop Dennis and Kimball trio ripoff wankfest, I'll eat my hat.
But what's your favorite?
The first one.
Bad Day Dawning?
Yeah, come on.
Because Husker Du?
Well, that, and also just like, let's update it. Huskers, you knew about what 1985 was like, but I'm going to tell you what 2019 is like.
So originally
Actually, sorry. I'm going to tell you what 2020 is
yeah.
like. You know, that's the first time I've written 2019 on a check that my ass couldn't cash.
So my original thing here was chapter title that could also be a Husker Du album title, and then about halfway through I realized it would be better if I opened it up. For me, it's totally the start of something, which would be a debut album by like some really bad emo pop band.
You know, so those of you who are lucky enough to listen to our Patreon episodes and heard us talk for about, I believe it was 435 hours about a what turned out to be largely Krishnacore record label's skate punk album, will also recognize a bunch of those as disturbingly posi-core album titles, including like Fresh Beginning, Gaining Insight.
Gaining Insight could be a Shelter album for sure. Like 100%. A hardcore band that sings about Hare Krishna would absolutely have a record called Gaining Insight. I mean, they literally had a record called Attaining the Supreme.
Yeah,
it's not too far from that.
2/3 of those songs are already sketched out in the back of my head, and I neither play an instrument nor practice any religious tenets.
Well, then you're on the same page as the members of many hardcore bands. Mm-hmm. But, and that worked until you got to the religious tenets part, but right. I had to say it anyway.
Sorry, you would have gotten the reaction faster, but I had a mouthful of cider. Anyway, if you'd like to hear a lot more jokes like that, just $5 a month gets you access to our entire back catalog of bonus episodes. That's patreon.com/IDEOTVpod.
And normally we save that for the end. Bonus note here, like I said, there were a few exceptions.
Okay.
I'd like to point out just a couple of them that I found great.
Oh, so it's quadfurcated or circular.
Yeah, well, this isn't really a what is your fave anymore. Okay. I just wanted to mention these. There's a chapter called Twin Peaks, Peeks.
Is that one of the ones where he's like looking through windows?
I was hoping it was. It's the one where they're looking on Facebook for people who look like them, so they're peeking at twins.
Oh, that's actually pretty good.
But if I
noticed that would have been a high point for me.
The sex scene that you read earlier comes from the chapter, which is in its entirety just that sex scene, and guess what it's called?
Getting it on?
Spicy.
No fucking way.
Seriously.
Okay, sorry, I gotta read this again because I clipped the part at the beginning where he's talking about maybe doing a food run, and then I'm sorry, you opened this door. I gotta walk through it. He slipped inside and engaged the electricity, a buzzing, not a budging.
A budging.
A buzzing in her intimate areas that radiated outward in pulses of bright pink light. She closed her eyes and clenched his back, riding her own pent-up emotion as much as his beautiful body. The pulsing grew faster and stronger, slapping her with wave after wave until her world exploded and her body spasmed and she writhed beneath the pleasant tremor of passions released. Let's skip ahead a page. Then her stomach rumbled, and they both laughed. You said something about Chinese food? His reaction surprised her. He tilted his head and grew a broad grin. You know, from now on, that's gonna be our thing. Someone we're with will suggest Chinese food, and we'll be giggling all the way to the bedroom.
Spicy.
Szechuan. But, okay, so let's just put yourself in the shoes of the imaginary companion of Chase and Skylar here. And you've just sort of mentioned, hey guys, it's been really fun hanging out. Let's keep the party going. Let's order some Chinese food. And they get up giggling and head to the bedroom. That's a little weird. And let's imagine that happened a second time. And then you would just have to do it to prank them, right?
Totally. Like, every time they came over, I'd be like, hey, I just ordered some spring rolls.
And then, whoop! Yeah, it's like, you're like, hey, guys, let's all go skiing. And the second you're at the very front of the lift line, you're like, when we're done, I can't wait to get a little Mugu Gai Pan.
Just standing in line in the movies and then go, Mongolian beef.
And they have to, like, rush off and do it. Behind the dumpster.
Oh, this is good. Let's move on to another game. Let's do Most Famous Fan.
They're rich and they're famous, but they read books too. They're rich and they're famous, but they're only a little better than you.
Okay, so famous people read books too.
What?
Probably not this one, but maybe. I'm really worried we both came up with the same person for this.
I guarantee I didn't.
Okay, you go first.
Okay, I really struggled with this because the only person I can imagine being an actual fan of this book is whoever's in charge of copyright control and copyright infringement for the Michael Crichton estate. Because I assume she or he is sitting around waiting for this thing to get optioned, and then they strike and demand that the money go straight to that estate, which I got to be honest, I assume is doing fine. Thank you. But in terms of a famous person, I'm gonna cheat a little bit and go to the cast the movie segment that we rarely do, because I think that this is so obviously a replacement level, what we used to call a sci-fi channel thriller.
Which I did earlier in the episode.
Yeah. I think your Brandon Rouths would read this and say, oh, that's a meaty role for me, and I've just freed up some time on my schedule by exiting Legends of Tomorrow, you know? Or somebody of roughly that stature. Like any of the ladies on Legends of Tomorrow could play Skylar with zero prep time. Just show her sides. She's in like Flynn. She's going to do great.
Interestingly, in my notes, I said that every man in this I imagined as looking exactly like Steve Jobs or Chris Evans. Every woman in this I imagine looking exactly like Liz Holmes or Brie Larson. So we're kind of on the same page here.
Yeah, except like you can tell where Jay sets his budget.
Yeah, my budget was substantially higher. I'm going for the real Marvel superstar / stars of the wonderful Knives Out. We'll get to this later.
Right, whereas I'm more in the, hey guys, what if we all put on a show together? I'm going to draw some backdrops on a sheet I found in the dumpster.
What's the name of that guy who played Charlie on Lost again?
Yes, I'll give him a production credit.
What's Hurley up to?
Yeah, exactly. Well, according to the very bottom of a lot of websites I wish I didn't read, what he's up to will surprise me.
Oh, no. So, for me, it's no doubt Peter Thiel.
Oh, fuck, you're right.
Because he is a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley who regularly gets infusions of blood from people younger than him so he can stay vital. Yeah. Like, this book is basically pornography for Peter Thiel.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure he reads this on the reg, but just skips all the action parts.
Yeah, he is literally Homer wondering, where's Pierce? When Pierce isn't on the page, other characters should be saying, where's Pierce?
Exactly. He's bunching his meaty fists and thinking about Pierce.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Sorry.
You can't sue us, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's true. He's put many a media empire out of business.
Yeah.
Via proxy wars using strange hot dog colored racists.
Yeah.
From the world of professional wrestling. But,
womp womp.
Yeah, I guess that's about it for Gabe. So
I can't believe I missed that. I feel like such a chump.
Let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll come back with some other stuff.
Well, I may not live forever, but I think I lived through this goddamn book.
Yeah, it was bad. It was real bad.
I want to say one closing thing about it, which is it's not great, but for the airport thriller level of book that it is, I kind of enjoyed this a lot more than like the J.A. Vance stuff that we've done and a lot of other stuff. Like, I thought it moved pretty quickly and it didn't really overstay its welcome. And I do want to call that out as a plus in its favor.
We just may be on different levels with this because as a hostage of the tech industry, I fucking hated this book with a deep passion.
Yes, but all of those people end up dead by the end of the book.
That's true. Anyway, let's recommend some stuff we like.
Not only venom and spite, sometimes with sweetness and light, and we always end the episode by telling you about a thing we like. Recommendations.
Let's do it. Do you want to go first or shall I? Okay. I am going to surprise literally no one who's ever listened to me talk in person or on podcast by recommending something I read on the internet that's by record scratch noise Britt Marling. She wrote a longish op-ed piece online for the New York Times this week called I Don't Want to Be the Strong Female Lead. And I'm not going to tell you anything about it other than two things. One, I think you should read it. I'm going to tell you three things. One, I think you should read it. Two, it will surprise you on a lot of levels, I think. And three, it is very, very Britt Marling-y, by which I mean it's kind of all over the place in some ways. It's a little shaggy, and it is unexpected in a lot of really, really interesting and thought-provoking ways. So go read it.
Any cool synchronized dance moves?
Mentions thereof, and makes me kind of want to revisit season 1 of the OA now that I have a little bit better sense of what she's on about.
Cool.
I am a big Britt Marling fan and think she makes really interesting art.
I agree. I think The Sound of My Voice is widely underrated and should be more frequently viewed. So I guess that's kind of a recommendation.
Haven't seen it. Need to rewatch The West or the East. It's the East. I haven't seen that in a while, and I'd like to rewatch that.
I have two recommendations. They're both kind of cheats, but whatever. A few episodes ago, we read a letter from a listener who mentioned the Japanese tradition of Hankaku detective stories, in particular Soji Shibata's The Tokyo Zodiac Murders. And I reread that a couple nights ago because I was curious. The idea behind this genre is that it's a traditional detective novel where you can figure out the mystery.
Right.
And so I reread it knowing the conclusion for the first time ever, and wow. Yeah, it's really, A, if you haven't read it, it's worth reading. B, if you haven't read it a second time, go back and read it now that you know what you have. This is a story where the author interrupts twice in the book to tell you, at this point, you have all the pieces you need to solve the puzzle. Perhaps you should take a break and think about it before you go on.
Oh, I hate that. That's some Nintendo Wii ass. You've been playing too long. Why don't you stop?
No, I love it because it means that the mystery has been playing fair, and it is great. And he's not lying. Like, by the time he says that, you could piece this thing together if you think about it hard enough. And it kind of blew my mind. So read it for the first time if you haven't. Read it for the second time if you have. Be forewarned. The book opens up with a letter that's supposedly written by the serial killer. So it starts out on a pretty dark and gory note.
Okay.
That goes away after about 10 pages when you get into the real story. So be prepared to wade through some kind of distasteful shit before you get into the story. But if you've watched a Law & Order SVU, you've seen way worse than you're going to read. Number 2, and this is definitely a cheat, but last night I watched Knives Out with commentary, and I would recommend, if you enjoyed Knives Out, watch it again with the commentary track now that it's out, because Rian Johnson is utterly charming, and he's great at describing his thought process, and a lot of the technical tricks that they use to be able to revisit shots during story revelations. Like, there are definitely a lot of parts of that movie where you see a scene you've seen before from a different angle,
right,
things like that. And there's just a lot of cinema trickery going on there in order to make that happen. Also, the circular sculpture with all the knives on it is a fucking barbecue grill.
What? That's a pretty big fucking barbecue grill.
Yeah, but go and look at just even the publicity stills with Daniel Craig in front of that, and you will see right away that's a barbecue grill with knives welded to it. That's amazing. So those are my 2 recommendations: is read things or watch things that you've seen before.
Right. Revisit and see if they hold up. I don't know if that book would work for me because I don't like books that tell me to stop reading them, and I don't know if that rewatch would work for me because, god damn it, I don't like trickeration.
But Rian Johnson makes it sound so much fun.
I kid. I love trickeration.
The first shot of the movie is 2 dogs running across a field, which he refers to immediately as doggos and very good boys.
Uh-huh.
So you can't help but love the guy.
Yeah, so enjoy his work now before he becomes irredeemably poisoned by online.
Yeah. No, I just love it. He says the dogs they worked with were very good boys, and then every time the dogs show up on screen, he's like, oh, there's the puppers again.
Right.
And it's pretty great. So
Heckin' doing me a cameo.
they are. But no, he's a joy to watch, and there's just many little things about that movie I hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
It's one of those rare commentaries where it's not just the director praising the actors or talking about the production of the movie. He points out little Easter eggy type things that you would not have noticed if you don't hear them come from the director.
The funniest commentary track I think I ever listened to was for Terminator 2, and there have been roughly 11 million versions of that over the years, so I'm sure that there are different commentary tracks, but the one I heard had James Cameron and one of the script writers, and every time the script writer started trying to talk about a plot moment or an emotion moment from one of the characters, he would say his piece, and then James Cameron would start talking about the technical aspects of the shot we were looking at.
Of course.
And I don't mean this happened once or twice. I mean this literally happened every single time the scriptwriter did that. And by the end, I was like, I've learned an incredible amount about James Cameron, and coincidentally, I have not seen a James Cameron film since.
Well, you missed Avatar, buddy.
I think Avatar was out by then. I'm not sure. And actually, I got to be honest, I saw about an hour of Avatar because a bar I was hanging out at the time that was not named Greensleeves, but which I called Greensleeves, had a habit of playing loud music, but also projecting a movie onto a big warehouse wall.
There's a couple of those places around here.
Yeah. And they did Avatar one time, but it was like kind of me. I'm going to guess I've seen it from about half an hour in to an hour and a half in.
Guess what? You didn't miss much.
I mean, I saw some pretty pictures.
It's a beautiful movie to look at. It's a painful movie to think about.
Anywho, and I don't know if he's really done anything since movie-wise, but
yeah, the Rian Johnson commentary.
Yeah.
There's 2 of them. There's the in-theater commentary that he did when the movie was touring. And then there's also the one that I listened to, which is him, his DP, and also the actor who plays one of the cops, who's also been his best friend and partner forever. And the interplay between them is very, very entertaining.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
I think one of those cops for about 8 seconds is, in fact, your friend and mine, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
That would just be the voice at the beginning of the movie when they're talking about a murder on the radio.
I think he's in a scene.
No, he's not. His cameo is literally he's a voice on the movie.
I'm pretty sure one of the big, there's 8 cop cars at the end. I think you can.
That's possible.
I think he handcuffs somebody and stuffs him in a car. I could be wrong, but I think so.
If so, it's not mentioned, but he is definitely he's an off-screen voice, and that is his cameo. Because buds for life.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
one thing that you really get from listening to this, is that when Rian Johnson is your friend, he's your fucking friend, and he's going to help you get in anything he can.
So he's like a friend to the end, kind of a Pokemon style.
I want to chill with him really bad.
And, sometimes people want to chill with us, but we are notorious recluses, and also we live in a specific part of the world, so they can't, but they can send us letters.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter F,
Also, nobody really wants to chill with us.
Yeah, it's just weird.
This letter comes from our friend Sarah, and it is entitled, in all caps and quotation marks, Headstrong.
I take on anything.
My sister introduced me to your podcast a few months ago by badgering me into listening to Just a Little Podcast, Please? Sad cat face, until I gave in.
Sisters can have a little podcast as a treat.
As a treat. I was previously not a podcast listener, not maliciously, just disinterestedly. And so I just want to say, there's a lot of folks like that out there. Be more like Sarah's sister, everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, I am happy to say that I'm enjoying it greatly, even though, much to her chagrin, I insist on listening to the episodes in chronological order. This puts me currently about 3/4 of the way through the Million Little Lies episode. Specifically, the part where y'all are discussing early 2000s bands. Oh yes, that part of that podcast.
That may be where it began.
Several episodes have gotten songs stuck in my head that I admit to having to pause the episode and listen to before commuting, or before continuing. My podcast listening time is mainly in the car, slogging through SoCal traffic to or from my job.
Relatable.
Yeah. This morning, it was the classic Headstrong by Trapped.
Oh, is that Trapped? I thought that was Five Finger Death Punch.
That's Trapped.
Trapt?
Trapped.
You know, I've typed the word trapped spelled correctly into my phone, and it autocorrects to Trapped, the band, for some reason.
You just told on yourself.
No, I swear to God, I have never typed that band's name on my phone. Like, they have some kind of weird marketing deal with Apple or something.
Sounds like your phone is a little headstrong.
It might be. It might
with the
just,
autocorrection.
It might just know that I previously said I thought chord slabs.
Whereas we all know the band that really holds up from that era is The Bizkit. Or as a friend of mine called a different band, I enjoy The Evan, which took me a while to realize meant Evanescence.
Yeah. The essence of Evan.
Yeah.
It's a popular eau de toilette as well.
I imagine I'm about 2 years too late calling you out on this reference. It led me listening to a chunk of the album, which was interesting and unexpectedly pleasant. I'm 32, so these bands were having radio hits at what was the end of middle, beginning of high school for me. Lots of rage of an awkward kid who didn't know how to fit in and tried on a lot of different options before finding where I was happy to fit in. This morning, I looked back on that kid who used to lock the door, don headphones, turn the volume up as far as it went, and feel not alone. Wow. Thank you for describing my life to me.
That was me too, except the bands were worse.
And I'm going to guess a not insignificant portion of the listening audience.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Listening today, I won't go to bat for them on a musical or lyrical level, and they may get lost among the many bands like them, but they made a difference to some kids out there who, like me, are grateful to look back and see just how much I've grown into being myself. Thank you for describing my life to me, part 2. And presumably other people in this room with me and probably people listening to this. So yeah, thank you. I thought that was like a fantastic, I don't know. That was a trip down memory lane that made me recontextualize shit, because by the time I heard Trapped, I was a million years old and thought it was dumb, and only then thought, actually, this kind of speaks to my inner 14-year-old who's no longer in the driver's seat, because a 14-year-old should never be in the driver's seat.
Yeah, he's still flicking cigarette butts out the back window.
But yeah, and deserves some respect and deserves a little affection as well.
So, I'll go first, but like, who's the band that grew up with you? Like, because for me, I feel like it's definitely Cursive, and I feel like this is an age thing. But I got into Cursive when all their songs were about like romantic angst and things like that.
Right.
And then right around the time I hit my mid-20s, Cursive started writing songs about how difficult it was to grow up and be an adult in the world and stuff. And I feel like just like they're a group that grew up with me and they were there for me every step of the way. Like, do you have a group like that?
Shit. Give me a second to think about that. While I'm thinking about that, is there a band who didn't grow up with you and who you felt like you outgrew, but then kind of came back to and were like, you know what? I still love this.
The Descendants at all. Like, anything involving them. Like, problematic lyrics aside, which I cannot apologize for, and, there's really no way to do it.
Yeah.
Product of their time, for sure, but it's still awful. But, yeah, I feel like they never really did any maturing other than musically.
Right.
But, like, I can still go back and I will still listen to All Roy Saves from front to back. It's a great record.
I think I didn't have any bands that, like, really were contemporaneous with me that I didn't eventually stop listening to. Almost everything that I truly love predates me by a good bit, but a lot of the things that never stopped being great for me, just I can come back to them and they're a little different, but they're not worse. They're maybe even better, So just stuff like Mike Watt in general, as he gets weirder and weirder and weirder.
More and more middle-aged and willing to experiment.
Yeah, and just like continues to like inspire me to like try new things, even though I'm a aged and ossified human. That's a good thing. Or or Neurosis, who continue to kind of like deepen their groove, where they're like, we've been doing roughly the same thing, but find new ways to make it fresh and make it interesting enough for us to invest our passion in it, which allows you to invest your passion in it as a listener. Stuff like that still works for me. And then just like moments like, oh, you know what? There's actually nothing juvenile about wanting to sing along with something.
Oh, yeah.
It turns out raising your voice in harmony with others never gets old.
Oh, it does not. I'm going to see Red City Radio next month, and I'm so fucking excited.
Exactly. Or I was listening to Iron Maiden on the way over just to cheer myself up a little bit. And you know what? It worked.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So, yeah, I mean, those are... I like your question too, though, and I'm going to think more about that.
I'm thinking about it too. Hot water music, I feel like, falls into this vibe with me too. It kind of speaks to what you just said, where there's and on and on and on and on, and every time you hear this song, you'll know you're not alone.
Right.
And I love that kind of shit, where it's like, yeah, these people are with me. We're all in this together. And it's like, you go to a hot water music show now, it's all fucking dads.
Yeah.
But they're still in the pit singing along with every ounce of emotion they have. And that's great to me.
And probably brought several of their kids.
Yeah. And their kids might even be singing along with all the emotion they have. And it's wonderful.
I've told this story before, but maybe the most adorable thing I've ever seen was at a fairly recent Superchunk show where aging indie dad had their, very, very punked out tiny kid, just, the smallest battle vest you've ever seen, more button than vest by weight, I'm sure.
That's how battle vests work.
And that kid pogoed so hard through the entire show. And it was, like I said, it was the most adorable, heartening thing.
They played hyper enough and his head exploded.
It's so good. I've also said, I don't know if I've ever said this on a podcast, most songs including a line with the words "in my room" are better than most songs that don't include that line.
Ooh, that's a good take.
And I will never stop believing that, even though I'm a grown-ass man, dog. I don't even have a room. I have an entire apartment.
It's true, but I still listen to Chesterfield Kings, and I'm like, I feel it.
Yep.
I sat in my room.
Yep.
I did. I sat in actually all 4 of them.
So that's my tip to you. If you want to get in touch with your inner, excessively emotional teenage self, prioritize songs with the lyric "in my room"
For sure, for sure.
And I think you'll probably get there.
Just stay away from that Goldfinger song, "Here in My Bedroom." It's not about what you think it's about.
So on that cautionary note, maybe we should peace out. If you'd like to write us a letter,
that might be Real Big Fish. I'm sorry. Either way, it sucks.
Real Big Finger.
Yeah, I don't know.
Goldfish?
Whatever. It's one of those
Whoa.
way too late third wave ska bands.
Wait a minute. Goldfish?
Goldfish?
That'd be a terrible name for a band. Actually, that'd be a pretty good name for a band.
I mean, it's not any worse than Fishbone or just Fish.
That's very true. Anyway, if you'd like to send us a letter, you can at I don't even own a television at gmail.com. We already covered the value and benefit of being a Patreon donor. There's, 45 back episodes plus a whole lot of weirdo extras over there on that channel.
I totally forgot. One of those extras is just me reciting all of the nicknames of the various members of the Wu-Tang Clan. Mm-hmm. So you can download that and educate yourself.
Get edumacated, if you will. I believe one of those might have been, I can't remember. I think I did it as an extra. I read an entire chapter of Joshua's book. I'm not going to say.
Oh, you did. Joshua, the social media star,
who's nom du making shit. I will not say. So an entire chapter of a book he read or he wrote that included but one word, and I believe that word was boobs. So if you need that in your head, that exists.
Also, awkward pause. Yeah. Also, we're on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. All that stuff, you can find us there. We've got the I Don't Even Own a Television Party Pit. Fun time Party Pit.
Party Pit.
Woo! It's on Facebook. I believe if you just search for Party Pit now, it's the top result.
Yes!
So we're going places, folks. But yeah, join that group if you want to talk to other people who listen to the show and enjoy posting about books and also crabs.
Yeah, there's a lot of books, there's a lot of pets, there's a lot of crabs, there's not very much politics, which is kind of pleasant. It's a good respite. It's a good place to just hang out and chill and talk about not the events of the day, but talk about the cool crab pictures you saw.
Yeah, I was going to say, usually if there are politics there, they're directly related to literature, and it usually has to do with, not the old white guy literary canon again, which I cannot get behind more in any possible way, because I am fucking sick of that shit too. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to you, seek us out, find us, join the group.
It's just a chill place to spend a little bit of time, as we hope this episode has been for you. Except if you're Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, if you're listening, either give me $1 million or go fuck yourself.
You said spend a little bit of time, but what if time ceased to have meaning because you were immortal?
Okay, that's an interesting question to ask. And that's a question that the back of this book says it's going to ask. And that's a question this book doesn't ask. So this book can make like Peter Thiel and give me $1 million or go fuck itself.
Or just get the fuck out of here, which is exactly what we're going to do. But until next time, I don't know, make the crab immortal?
Live forever on the crab.